All right, hi, welcome back, Attorney Steve Vondran. Today we are talking about default. What do you do when you're a plaintiff? You file a lawsuit against the defendant and they don't answer. You need to get a default, and in some cases following that up with a default judgment. Now we're talking about state court. I have a lot of federal court things that I've been talking about if you want to go look those up. This is state court. So in California, and I'm using these judicial counsel forms, these are the forms that you use in many cases which help make life easy for you, especially if you're in pro per handling your case. But I'm going to walk you through this really quick. It's just a couple pages. I'm going to zip by it. So this is what you do when you want to put someone in default. Now, first of all, what does putting them in default means? It means if they haven't answered the complaint or responded to the complaint, like with a motion to dismiss, within the time frames, usually it's 30 days in state court to respond in California, then you file for the default. The default cuts off their defenses so they can't come in and say, hey, wait, I want to defend the case. Now, there are exceptions. They can file a motion to set aside the default. That happens from times if there's excusable neglect or other things. So don't think that it's 100% locked in. But when they don't answer, you want to do this right here. Click that entry of default, okay? So let's just start it out. If you're an attorney or party without attorney, that's your pro se. In pro per, fill this out, your name. If you're an attorney, your firm name, your address, your city, your state, all this good stuff, okay? And then if you're an attorney, you're going to put who you're an attorney for. Kiki, attorney for Kiki. Then you're going to add what Superior Court of California is it? Is it in Marin County, LA County, Orange County? Put your thing in there and then put the address of the court. So look up your court, find the address. Sometimes they'll have a branch name like the Torrance Courthouse is a common one for LA area. Anyway, fill out this information, put in the case number over here. You'll notice, I use a Mac, so you may notice that when you come down here to the second page, it's not letting me fill that in or that in. So you may have to print that out and then fill in this information, okay? Make it complete. But let's go back. So you get this all filled in. If you're the plaintiff or the petitioner, let's call it the plaintiff. You put your name there. If you're the defendant, you want to put the defendant in there to show I'm the defendant that you're seeking to get the default for. And here it is. Now, this is where it gets a little confusing for some people, okay? So, including me early on. But if you're seeking to cut off all the defenses, and when that happens, everything in your complaint, the well-pled complaints, are going to be taken as true, and then you may have to prove up your case, or you get a clerk's judgment. So, for example, if you have a contract and it's $100,000, the defendant owes you $100,000, they didn't pay, you would click entry of default, but also clerk's judgment, telling the clerk and attach the contract and the complaint and say, here it is, they owed me $100, they didn't answer, just enter the clerk's judgment. So you can do that. A lot of times, however, that's for like contracts and some other cases. A lot of times maybe you're looking at like a defamation case or some sort of tort case. In these instances, you may have to go prove it up, and that's going to be a lot of cases, okay? So they didn't answer, you're suing them for defamation, you think it's worth $1 million, you want punitive damages, all that stuff, fine. But you're not going to get that with a clerk's judgment, okay? So you want to be over here. So I'm clicking these two, and here you're just telling the clerk on the complaint or the cross complaint filed, on this day, put your date the complaint was filed, by who it was, the plaintiff, and then you put which defendants you want to default. You may want to default, there may be 3 different defendants that you're defaulting. There may only be one, so put the name of the party you're defaulting right here, okay? And in a lot of cases, you're going to be doing this as well. I requested court judgment. That's this right here. So you requested the court judgment. And so that's where, and you can, again, put the names in there. They got a little name slot in there. So you can put in Jekyll, and whoever your client's name is. And that is, as you see here, testimony required, apply to the clerk for a hearing date, unless the court will enter a judgment on an affidavit under the civil code. So you can look up these civil codes. But lots of times you're going to be doing this. So I request a court judgment. And again, if you had the $100,000 contract case, you would click that. You would say, I want the clerk's judgment. So it's one of the two. Which one are you going to do? So right there, you're going to do the enter the clerk's judgment. Say, just give me the judgment on my contract claim. All right. So whichever one you're going to do, move on down. If you have the type of complaint that's $100,000, you can itemize everything here for this judgment to be entered. So let's say I demanded $100,000 in the complaint. You can throw that in there, $100,000. Maybe they paid up $5,000. You can say there was a $5,000 credit. Whoops, that would be a big credit. And a remaining balance is $95,000. So you can do something along those lines. Obviously, my numbers are inflated today. I got judgment fever. All right, so what else do we have? Statement of damages. There's different types of damages, special, general. I have a video on that. I'm not going to go into it. Look up Vondran, special damages versus general damages. You also have interest that can be recovered, not only pre-judgment interest, but post-judgment interest. That comes after the judgment's entered. You've got costs, that's your filing fees, service of process fees, any other fees. And if your contract allows, or there's a statute or a contract that allows you to recover attorney fees, then you can put in there your attorney fees. Same thing, credits acknowledged and balanced. So this is what you're asking for. So you got judgment to be entered, number 2, and that's it. So you're going to have the here, if you're going to daily damages, demanded in the complaint at the rate of. So like I said, you need to look into the, fill all that out, check here if it's an unlawful detainer. That's another fancy name for eviction. Legal document assistant or unlawful detainer assistant. If you're doing that, you need to notify the court that that's who's filing it. Otherwise, if it's an attorney, just make sure you get your date in there. Type or print your name, Attorney Steve, sign your signature there, and then you're good. This is court only, so you don't have to worry about that. So that's page 1. It's pretty simple, right? You guys can do that. Come down here again, second page. As I mentioned, you're going to have to probably print this out at the end. Maybe on a PC or something. It's fillable. It's not for me. Legal assistant, did they help? Yes, no. What's their name, number, all that, if somebody's helping you. And then, again, this ties back to the type of judgment. If it's on a contract, you might say this is a declaration. So when you have a declaration, these are under penalty of perjury. That's what a declaration is. And if it's for a contract, for sales of goods, those kinds of things. So you could check all this out. You have different various acts, Unruh Act, different codes. So check that out in your case, see what applies. Down here, I would put this as not a contract for installment is good. It's not this, it's not that. So that's not really gonna be applicable for me, but you could do that and plug in this, or you could plug in the other ones over here, okay? So it all depends what your case is working with, and take a good look at these code sections. Usually not too hard to read. Sometimes it takes a little bit of work to understand it, but then you have a declaration of mailing. Usually I like to mail these. You could put not mailed. Some addresses were unknown to the plaintiff, but I usually like to mail it somewhere to the defendant themselves or other parties. If there's other attorneys in the case, I want them to be on notice of it. Then just simply date it again, sign it again, print your name again, sign it again. Memorandum of costs, this is where you can add some of the things that I was talking about. Filing fees, maybe it's $300-400 to file the suit. Service of process fees, maybe it's $100, $150, $200. So you fill it all out, total it up, fees and whatnot, total them on up. There you go. This is again under penalty of perjury, laws of the state of California. So you want to be accurate. You don't want to be winging it, so to speak, okay? Other than that, you come down to the last page. Now this is also important if you have an individual. you need to make sure they are not in the military, because you can't get a default on them if they're serving in the military under the Service Members Civil Relief Act or California Military and Veterans Code. So what you do here, once again, you're probably going to have to print that and type in this information nice and neatly. But you want to search, and here's a little thing here that you can search. And basically, if they're a business entity, just go down here. Don't waste your time. A business can't be serving in the military. So the defendant is not eligible because they're a business or any other reason that you have here. But here's where you look. If say it's a defendant that's an individual, you need to make sure they're not in the military. Okay, so there's some information there if you want to pause it and read. That's up to you. But you basically open up an account, and I think it's here. And you need to go search and attach this, log in, set up an account, and go search that to make sure this person's not in the military, because that will, if you didn't do this, if you didn't look, it's probably going to hurt your chances of getting the default, okay? So that's about it. So then basically you're just going to fill this out, declaration, and bingo, there you have it. Sign here, once again, under penalty of perjury. Item 8 is true and correct, so you're going to need to make sure, don't wing it. Don't wing it on this, okay? Sign date, print this form, voila, and then you get this thing filed. I usually like to attach the complaint. I like to attach the proofs of service and anything else that may be helpful, okay? So that's it, get it in, get filed. That cuts off their defenses, but don't forget there are grounds to come in and set aside the default. So just bear all that in mind. I hope this has been helpful. Attorney Steve Vondran, Civil Litigation, California, Intellectual Property and Entertainment Law. I hope this has been helpful. Have a great day. This is general legal information only and not legal advice.